If you picked up the most powerful man in the world on a lonely stretch of highway? Well, folks, I'm Joseph Wilson. Been hauling freight across this great nation for 37 years. And let me tell you something. What happened to me last Tuesday on Route 66 through the Arizona desert will make you question everything you think you know about our government. Before I get into this wild story, I gotta ask you something. Have you ever been in a situation where helping someone could completely change your life? Drop a comment below and tell me about it, because after what I'm about to share, you'll understand why I'm still looking over my shoulder. Now, I've seen plenty of strange things on the Mother Road. UFO sightings near Roswell, ghost towns that give you the creeps, and truckers who swear they've met Elvis at a diner in Tucumcari. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for what went down between Flagstaff and Winslow that scorching Tuesday afternoon. I was hauling a load of organic soybeans from Illinois to California, running my usual route through the painted desert. The CB radio was crackling with chatter about unusual military activity near the Meteor Crater. But hell, that's nothing new in Arizona. What caught my attention was the complete radio silence from the Secret Service frequencies I sometimes pick up on my scanner. See, most folks don't know this, but us long-haul drivers, we hear things. We see things. We're the eyes and ears of America's highways, and when something's off, we feel it in our bones. That Tuesday, something was definitely off. The air itself felt electric, like before a thunderstorm, except there wasn't a cloud in that endless blue sky. I was about 40 miles east of Winslow, cruising past the painted desert trading post when I saw smoke rising from a ravine about half a mile off the highway. Now, in 37 years of driving, I've learned to trust my gut, and my gut was telling me this wasn't just another tourist's overheated radiator. I pulled my rig over, grabbed my binoculars, and what I saw made my blood run cold. Down in that ravine was a black SUV, completely totaled, smoke pouring from the engine. But here's the kicker. Scattered around the wreckage were what looked like Secret Service agents, and they weren't moving. I should have called 911 right then and there. Should have minded my own business and kept on trucking. But something made me climb down into that ravine, and that something changed my life forever. Because walking away from that wreckage, bloodied and disoriented, was a man I recognized immediately from every news channel in America. It was President Donald Trump, and he was very much alone. Now I know what you're thinking. This sounds like some conspiracy theory nonsense, right? Trust me, I thought the same thing. But when the President of the United States looks you dead in the eye and says, "Driver, I need your help, and if you don't help me, this country might not survive the next 48 hours. Well, that tends to grab your attention. His suit was torn. There was blood on his forehead, and his usually perfect hair was a mess. But his eyes, man, his eyes were sharp as a hawk's. He looked around that ravine like he was expecting more trouble, then fixed his gaze on me. "You got a CB radio in that truck?" he asked, his voice hoarse but commanding. "Yes, sir, Mr. President." I managed to stammer. "Good. We need to get moving, now. There are people who think I'm dead, and we need to keep it that way for a while." He started climbing toward my truck, moving faster than a man his age should after surviving a crash like that. That's when I knew I was about to get pulled into something way bigger than hauling soybeans across the desert. But what choice did I have? You don't leave the President of the United States stranded in the Arizona wilderness, even if every instinct you have is screaming that this is about to turn your quiet trucker life upside down. As we climbed up from that ravine, Trump kept looking over his shoulder like he expected helicopters to come swooping down any second. My hands were shaking as I helped him into the passenger seat of my Peterbilt. Here I was, Joseph Wilson from Bakersfield, California, with the leader of the free world bleeding in my cab. "Listen carefully, driver," he said, his voice dropping to almost a whisper. "What I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest levels, but given the circumstances, you need to know what we're dealing with." I fired up the engine and pulled back onto Route 66, trying to act normal while my heart was pounding like a jackhammer. The desert stretched endlessly ahead of us. Red rocks and sagebrush as far as the eye could see. 3 days ago, Trump continued, we intercepted communications about something called Project Midnight Sun. It's not what you think. It's not about nuclear weapons or foreign enemies. It's about something much bigger, much more dangerous. He paused, wiping blood from a cut above his eye. "Joseph, that's your name, right? What I'm about to tell you will sound insane, but I need you to listen. There's a faction within our own government that's been planning something for decades, something that would fundamentally change life on Earth as we know it." I kept my eyes on the road, but my mind was racing. "What kind of something, mister?" President? Climate manipulation on a global scale. Not the kind you hear about in conspiracy theories, but real technology. Weather control systems that could trigger droughts, floods, hurricanes, all designed to create a crisis so severe that people would beg for a new world order. The CB radio crackled to life. Breaker 19. This is Road Dog Charlie. Anyone seen unusual military activity near the meteor crater? Over. Trump grabbed my arm. Don't answer that. We don't know who's listening. I clicked off the radio and kept driving. The sun was starting to set, painting the desert in shades of orange and purple. Under normal circumstances, it would have been beautiful, but nothing about this was normal. The attack on my convoy wasn't random, Trump said. I was on my way to a secret facility near Sedona, a place most people in Washington don't even know exists. That's where they're running the final tests on this weather control system. He pulled out a damaged cell phone, the screen cracked but still functional. I managed to download some files before the attack, proof of what they're planning. But if I don't get this information to the right people in the next 24 hours, they'll activate the system and blame the resulting disasters on climate change. I glanced at him. Who's they, Mr. President? His jaw tightened. People I trusted. People who've been in government longer than I have. They call themselves the Continuity Council, and they believe the only way to save humanity is to control it completely. The highway stretched ahead of us, empty except for the occasional tumbleweed. But I had the feeling we weren't as alone as we seemed. That's when I started having second thoughts about this whole damn situation. I mean, here I am, a simple trucker who spent his whole life staying out of politics, and suddenly I'm in the middle of what sounds like the biggest conspiracy in American history. Part of me wanted to pull over right then and there, call the authorities, and wash my hands of the whole mess. I can see the doubt in your eyes, Joseph, Trump said, reading my expression. Hell, if I were in your boots, I'd be thinking the same thing. But let me ask you something. You got kids? Grandkids? 2 daughters? I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. And 3 grandchildren. Then you understand what's at stake here. This isn't about politics or power games. This is about the future of every family in America, including yours. He showed me the cracked phone screen, and what I saw made my stomach drop. Satellite images of massive installations hidden in remote locations across the country. Technical diagrams that looked like something out of a science fiction movie. And worst of all, a timeline showing planned weather events scheduled to begin in less than 48 hours. The first target is the Midwest, Trump explained. They're planning to trigger a drought so severe it'll destroy this year's corn and soybean harvest. Food prices will skyrocket, people will panic, and that's when they'll step in with their solution. Complete government control of food distribution. I thought about my load of soybeans in the trailer behind us. Farmers in Illinois had worked their asses off to grow those beans, and now I was learning that some shadow group wanted to destroy crops just like them to gain more power. But why Route 66, I asked. Why were you out here in the middle of nowhere? Because the main control facility is hidden in the Sedona Mountains, he said, built into the red rocks themselves, completely invisible from the air. I was supposed to meet with a scientist there, Dr. Elena Rodriguez, who's been working on the inside to expose this whole operation. The name hit me like a freight train. Dr. Rodriguez? Tall woman, dark hair, drives a silver Honda? Trump's eyes widened. You know her? She stopped at the same truck stop I did this morning back in Flagstaff. Seemed nervous as hell, kept looking over her shoulder. She asked me about the best route to avoid main highways. Jesus Christ, Trump muttered. If she's trying to avoid the main roads, that means they're onto her too. We need to find her before they do. That's when I heard it. The distant sound of helicopter rotors echoing off the canyon walls. Trump heard it too, and his face went pale. They found us, he said grimly. How fast can this rig go? I pressed the accelerator to the floor and my Peterbilt responded like the beast she is. The speedometer climbed past 80, which is about as fast as you want to push a fully loaded semi on a desert highway. Behind us, I could see the black dots of helicopters in my mirrors, getting bigger by the second. There's an old mining road about 5 miles ahead, I shouted over the roar of the engine. It leads up into the mountains. If we can make it there, those choppers won't be able to follow. Do it, Trump said, gripping the dashboard as we hit a bump that nearly launched us both out of our seats. The CB radio suddenly crackled to life with a voice I didn't recognize. Attention, truck driver. You are harboring a fugitive. Pull over immediately and surrender the package. Package? I looked at Trump. They're talking about you like you're a damn shipment of cargo. That's exactly what I am to them, he replied bitterly. A problem to be contained and eliminated. I grabbed the CB microphone. This is Big Joe on the Mother Road. I don't know what you're talking about, partner, just hauling soybeans to California. We know who you are, Joseph Wilson. We know about your daughters Sarah and Michelle. We know about your grandchildren. Cooperate, and they remain safe. My blood turned to ice. These bastards had done their homework. They knew everything about me, about my family, but instead of scaring me into submission, it just pissed me off. Nobody threatens my family. You listen to me, you government sons of bitches, I growled into the microphone. I've been driving these roads since before you were born, and I'll be damned if I'm gonna let you intimidate me. Trump looked at me with something like respect. You sure you want to do this, Joseph? Once you make this choice, there's no going back. I thought about my granddaughter Emma, only 8 years old, who always asked me to bring her postcards from my trips. I thought about the America I wanted to leave her, one where people could still make their own choices, where the weather wasn't controlled by some shadow government. Mr. President, I said, downshifting as we approached the mining road turnoff. I've been hauling freight across this country for 37 years. I've seen America at its best and its worst, and I'll be damned if I'm going to let these bastards destroy everything we stand for. I yanked the wheel hard to the right and we left Route 66 behind, climbing into the Red Rock canyons of Arizona. The helicopters tried to follow, but the narrow canyon walls forced them to back off. For the moment, we were safe, but I knew this was just the beginning. Somewhere up in these mountains was Dr. Rodriguez, and she might be our only hope of stopping whatever hell these people were planning to unleash on America. The mining road was rougher than a cob, and my poor Peterbilt was taking a beating. Every pothole felt like it might shake the fillings out of my teeth, but we kept climbing higher into the Red Rock country. The sun was setting fast, painting the canyon walls in shades of fire and blood. There, Trump pointed to a cluster of buildings about half a mile ahead. That's the old Copper King mine. If Dr. Rodriguez is hiding anywhere, it'd be there. As we got closer, I could see a silver Honda parked behind one of the abandoned structures. Well, I'll be damned. Looks like your scientist lady had the same idea. I pulled the rig behind a massive boulder that would hide us from any air surveillance, and we climbed down from the cab. The desert air was already getting cold. Funny how fast it changes once the sun goes down out here. We found Dr. Rodriguez in what used to be the mine's office building, hunched over a laptop computer with cables running to some kind of satellite dish she'd rigged up outside. She was a small woman, maybe 45, with intelligent eyes that looked like they'd seen too much. "Mr. President," she gasped when she saw Trump. "Thank God you're alive. When I heard about the convoy attack, I thought, I'm harder to kill than they think." Trump replied grimly, "Elena, this is Joseph Wilson. He's the trucker who pulled me out of that ravine." She looked me up and down, sizing me up. "Can we trust him? He just outran government helicopters to get me here," Trump said. "I'd say he's earned our trust." Dr. Rodriguez nodded and turned back to her computer. "I've been monitoring their communications. The weather modification system is called HARP-X, and it's 1,000 times more powerful than anything the public knows about. They're planning to activate it in 18 hours. She pulled up a map on her screen showing the entire Midwest. The first target is a massive drought that will destroy crops across 7 states. But that's just the beginning. Once people are desperate enough, they'll trigger floods, hurricanes, even earthquakes. Earthquakes? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You're telling me they can cause earthquakes?" "The technology exists," she said quietly. "I helped develop it, God forgive me. We thought we were creating a defense system, something to protect America from natural disasters. But they've weaponized it." Trump leaned over her shoulder, studying the data. "What do we need to stop them?" "The main control center is built into Sedona's Bell Rock about 20 miles from here. But it's heavily guarded and the only way in is through a service tunnel that runs from an old ranch on the outskirts of town." She handed Trump a flash drive. "This contains the shutdown codes, but someone has to physically access the main computer terminal. The system is air-gapped, no internet connection for security reasons. So we need to get to Bell Rock," Trump said. "How long do we have?" 17 hours and 43 minutes, Dr. Rodriguez replied, checking her watch. "But there's something else. My contact inside the facility sent me this message an hour ago." She played an audio file on her computer. A man's voice, barely above a whisper. "Elena, they know you're out there. They're sending a kill team to find you, and they've got something called the Cleaners, mercenaries who specialize in making problems disappear. Get out of there now." The message ended, and we all sat in silence for a moment. Outside I could hear the distant sound of vehicles approaching. "Well, shit," I muttered. "Looks like our little hideout just got compromised." "Doctor?" Rodriguez was already packing up her equipment, moving with the efficiency of someone who'd done this before. "There's a back way out of here," she said. "An old mining tunnel that leads to the other side of the mountain." "What about your car?" I asked. "Leave it. They'll expect us to use vehicles. We go on foot through the tunnel, then figure out our next move." Trump was looking out the window, and what he saw made his face go white. Too late for the tunnel. They're already surrounding the building. I peered out and counted at least 6 black SUVs positioned around the mine complex. Men in tactical gear were moving between the buildings, and they definitely weren't here to ask polite questions. How the hell did they find us so fast? I wondered aloud. Dr. Rodriguez held up her laptop. "They've been tracking my satellite connection. I'm such an idiot. I should have known they'd triangulate the signal." A voice boomed through a megaphone outside. "Dr. Rodriguez, this is Colonel Marcus Webb with the Continuity Council. You have 60 seconds to surrender the stolen data and come out with your hands visible." "Webb," Trump spat. "I should have known that bastard was involved. He's been pushing for expanded executive powers since day one of my administration." "You know this guy?" I asked. "He's supposed to be head of White House security," Trump replied. "Looks like he's been playing for the other team all along." Dr. Rodriguez was frantically typing on her laptop. "I'm uploading everything to a secure server. If we don't make it out of here, at least the evidence will survive." 30 seconds! Webb's voice echoed off the canyon walls. I looked around the old office building. Stone walls, 1 door, 2 windows. Not exactly a fortress, but it would have to do. "There's a rifle rack in my truck," I said. "Hunting rifles, but they'll do the job." "Joseph!" Trump grabbed my arm. "You don't have to do this. This isn't your fight." I thought about my granddaughter Emma again, about the world I wanted to leave her. "Mr. President, with all due respect, this became my fight the moment they threatened my family." Dr. Rodriguez finished her upload and slammed the laptop shut. "It's done. The evidence is safe." "Time's up," Webb shouted. "Move in." That's when the shooting started. Bullets shattered the windows, sending glass flying everywhere. We hit the floor as chunks of stone exploded from the walls around us. "The tunnel," Dr. Rodriguez pointed to a wooden door at the back of the building. "It's our only chance." We crawled across the floor as gunfire erupted all around us. I could hear Webb shouting orders to his men, coordinating their assault. These weren't regular government agents. They moved like professional soldiers, and they were here to make sure none of us left this mountain alive. But they'd made one mistake. They'd underestimated a truck driver who'd spent 37 years learning that sometimes the only way through a problem is straight ahead. Pedal to the metal and damn the consequences. The mining tunnel was darker than the inside of a cow, and it smelled like 100 years of bat shit and rust. We stumbled through it using the flashlight on Dr. Rodriguez's phone, trying to move fast while staying quiet. Behind us, I could hear Webb's men searching the office building, their voices echoing through the stone corridors. "This tunnel connects to the old rail line," Dr. Rodriguez whispered as we navigated around fallen timbers and puddles of stagnant water. "It'll take us about 2 miles from here, but we'll come out near the main highway." "And then what?" I asked, trying not to think about the tons of rock above our heads. "We can't exactly hitchhike to Bell Rock with half the government looking for us." Trump was keeping up better than I expected for a man his age, but I could tell the crash and the stress were taking their toll. "There's a safe house," he said between heavy breaths, "a place the Secret Service doesn't know about. My old friend Jake Morrison runs a classic car restoration shop in Sedona. He's been restoring vintage Route 66 vehicles for 20 years. Can we trust him?" Dr. Rodriguez asked. "Jake saved my life in Vietnam," Trump replied. "If there's anyone in this world I trust completely, it's him." We'd been walking for about 20 minutes when we heard the sound that made my blood freeze. Dogs barking. Tracking dogs, and they were getting closer. "Shit," I muttered. "They brought the whole damn cavalry." Dr. Rodriguez stopped and pulled a small device from her backpack. "Ultrasonic dog repeller," she explained. "It won't stop them for long, but it might buy us some time." She activated the device, and the barking behind us turned into confused whimpering. But I knew it wouldn't last. These weren't ordinary guard dogs. They were military trained, and they'd push through the discomfort to follow our scent. How much further to the exit? Trump asked. Maybe half a mile, Dr. Rodriguez replied, checking her GPS. But there's something I need to tell you both. The safe house might not be safe anymore. We stopped walking. In the darkness, I could barely make out their faces, but I could hear the fear in her voice. What do you mean? I asked. Before we left the mine, I intercepted another transmission. Webb's people have been monitoring all of the president's known associates. They've got surveillance teams watching anyone who might help us. Trump leaned against the tunnel wall, and for the first time since I'd found him in that ravine, he looked defeated. So we're on our own. Not necessarily, I said, an idea forming in my head. I've got a friend too, someone these government boys wouldn't think to watch. I told them about Big Mike Kowalski, a fellow trucker who ran an independent repair shop just outside Sedona. Mike was old school, no computers, no credit cards, everything cash and handshake deals. He was also a Vietnam vet who didn't trust the government any further than he could throw it. Mike's got a CB radio setup that can reach truckers all across the Southwest, I explained. If anyone can help us get to Bell Rock without being detected, it's him. We reached the end of the tunnel just as the first rays of dawn were breaking over the desert. The exit was hidden behind a screen of juniper trees, and we could see the highway about a quarter mile below us. There, Doctor. Rodriguez pointed to a cluster of buildings in the distance. That's Sedona. Bell Rock is the tall red formation on the right. Looking at it in the morning light, Bell Rock looked like a natural fortress. I could see why they'd chosen it for their secret facility. It was isolated, defensible, and the red stone would hide any construction from aerial surveillance. But between us and that rock was about 15 miles of open desert, crawling with Webb's people, and God knows who else. We made our way down to the highway, staying in the cover of the rocks and scrub brush. My old bones were aching from the night's adventure, but adrenaline kept me moving. Dr. Rodriguez had her laptop out again, monitoring radio frequencies and trying to track Webb's movements. They've got roadblocks on all the main routes into Sedona, she reported, and there are helicopters doing search patterns over the entire area. What about back roads? Trump asked. Covered too. These guys are thorough. That's when I spotted something that made me grin. About half a mile down the highway was a familiar sight. A big rig pulled over at a scenic overlook, the driver probably taking his mandatory rest break. There's our ride, I said, pointing to the truck. We made our way to the overlook, staying low and moving from cover to cover. As we got closer, I could see it was a Kenworth hauling a load of construction equipment. The driver was sitting on his tailgate, drinking coffee from a thermos and watching the sunrise. Morning, driver, I called out as we approached. Beautiful day for a haul. The guy looked up, a weathered face under a John Deere cap, probably in his 50s. Sure is. You folks having car trouble? Something like that, I replied. I'm Joe Wilson. Been driving these roads for 37 years. This here's my friend Donald and the lady's Elena. We're in a bit of a jam. The driver's eyes widened as he recognized Trump, but to his credit, he didn't make a big deal of it. Name's Carl Peterson, he said quietly, and I'm guessing this ain't no ordinary jam. I gave him the short version. Government conspiracy, weather control, need to get to Sedona without being detected. Carl listened without interrupting, occasionally nodding like he'd heard stranger things. Well, he said when I finished, I was heading to a construction site just outside Sedona anyway. Got room for 3 passengers if you don't mind riding with a load of bulldozer parts. Carl, I said, you might just be saving the country. He chuckled. Hell, Joe, I always wanted to be a hero. Just figured it'd involve more beer and less government conspiracies. We climbed into Carl's cab just as a helicopter appeared on the horizon, heading our way. Carl fired up the Kenworth and pulled back onto the highway like nothing unusual was happening. CB handles Desert Rat, he said, handing me the microphone. Channel 19's been buzzing all morning about unusual government activity. A lot of drivers are pissed off about the roadblocks. I keyed the mic. Breaker 19, this is Big Joe. Any drivers got eyes on the situation around Sedona? Over. The radio crackled to life with responses from truckers all over the area. What I heard made me smile. The government boys had made a tactical error. They'd pissed off the trucking community by blocking roads and delaying deliveries. Big Joe, this is Moondog. They got the I-17 backed up for miles. Heard they're looking for some kind of terrorist, but these boys don't look like regular FBI to me. Over. Copy that, Moondog. Anyone know alternate routes that might be less crowded? Over. Try the old mining road past Oak Creek, came another voice. Rough as hell, but it'll get you where you're going without dealing with the federales. Dr. Rodriguez was monitoring her equipment. The helicopter's moving away, she reported. I think we're clear for now. But as we approached the outskirts of Sedona, I could see this was just the calm before the storm. Bell Rock loomed ahead of us, and somewhere inside that red stone fortress was a weapon that could change the world forever. We had less than 12 hours to stop them. Carl dropped us off at Big Mike's repair shop just as the morning rush was starting in Sedona. The place looked like every independent truck stop I'd ever seen. A collection of weathered buildings, rusted equipment, and the kind of organized chaos that only made sense to the guy who owned it. Big Mike Kowalski was exactly what you'd expect from a guy with that name. 6'4", built like a brick shithouse, with arms covered in tattoos that told the story of 2 tours in Vietnam and 40 years of fixing broken-down rigs. He took one look at our little group and knew something serious was going down. "Joe Wilson, you old bastard," he said, wiping grease off his hands with a rag. "What kind of trouble you bringing to my doorstep this time?" "The kind that could get us all killed, Mike," I replied, "but also the kind that might save the country." I made the introductions, and Mike's expression got more serious when he realized who Trump was. "Mr. President," he said, extending a massive hand, "heard about the convoy attack on the news this morning. They're saying you're missing, presumed dead. That's exactly what we want them to think." Trump replied, "Mike, we need your help. There's a facility inside Bell Rock that we need to reach, and every government agency in Arizona is looking for us." Mike listened as Dr. Rodriguez explained about the weather control system and the 18-hour deadline. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment, staring out at Bell Rock in the distance. "You know," he said finally, "I always wondered what they were building up there. Started about 10 years ago. Lots of unmarked trucks hauling equipment up the backside of the rock. Told folks it was some kind of geological survey, but geological surveys don't need that much concrete and steel." "You've seen the construction?" Dr. Rodriguez asked. "Hell, I helped haul some of it. They paid cash, no questions asked, and the money was too good to pass up. But I always had a bad feeling about it." Mike led us into his office, a cluttered space filled with CB radios, maps, and enough coffee to fuel a small army. He pulled out a detailed topographical map of the area and spread it on his desk. "There's a service road that runs up the backside of Bell Rock," he explained, tracing a route with his finger. "It's not on any official maps, but the construction crews used it for years. Problem is, it's probably guarded now." "What about the tunnel Dr. Rodriguez mentioned?" Trump asked. "That'd be the old Harmony Ranch access," Mike said. "The ranch has been abandoned for 20 years, but the tunnel's still there. It was originally built to connect the ranch's water system to a natural spring inside the rock." Dr. Rodriguez was studying the map intently. "If we could get into that tunnel, how close would it bring us to the main facility?" "Maybe a quarter mile," Mike replied. "But you'd still have to navigate through a maze of natural caves and artificial corridors. And that's assuming they haven't sealed it off." That's when the CB radio crackled to life with an urgent transmission. "All units, this is Colonel Webb. We have confirmed sightings of the targets in the Sedona area. Increase patrols and establish a 5-mile perimeter around Bell Rock. No one gets in or out without authorization." Mike turned down the volume and looked at us grimly. "Sounds like they're tightening the noose." "How long until dark?" I asked. "About 10 hours, Mike replied. "But waiting that long might be cutting it too close." Dr. Rodriguez checked her watch. "We have 11 hours and 37 minutes until they activate the system. If we're going to do this, we need to move soon. There might be another way," Mike said slowly. "Every month there's a supply convoy that goes up to the facility. Food, equipment, personnel changes. It's scheduled to leave from the government depot in Flagstaff in about 3 hours. "You think we could intercept it?" Trump asked. "Better than that," Mike grinned. "I know the guy who drives the lead truck, Tommy Brennan, another Vietnam vet who's been hauling government contracts for 15 years. He owes me a favor, and he's not too fond of the current administration's policies." I could see where this was going. "You're talking about hijacking a government convoy." "I'm talking about 3 concerned citizens hitching a ride," Mike corrected. "Tommy's truck breaks down. We happen to be passing by with a replacement vehicle, and we volunteer to complete his delivery. It was crazy enough to work, but it was also dangerous as hell." Mike was already on the phone with Tommy Brennan, speaking in the kind of code that veterans use when they don't want to spell things out over an open line. After a few minutes, he hung up and turned to us with a grim smile. "Tommy's in," he said, "but he wants to know exactly what he's getting into." Tell him he's helping to prevent the biggest attack on American soil since Pearl Harbor, Trump said. And that's not hyperbole. While Mike made the arrangements, Dr. Rodriguez was working on her laptop, trying to hack into the facility's security systems. I'm getting some limited access through my old credentials, she said. The good news is the tunnel entrance is still operational. The bad news is they've installed motion sensors and automated defenses. What kind of defenses? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Lethal kind, she replied quietly. This isn't just a research facility anymore. It's a fortress. Mike finished his call and turned back to us. Tommy's convoy leaves Flagstaff at 2 p.m. He'll develop engine trouble about halfway here, right where the old mining road intersects with Highway 89. We'll be waiting with a replacement truck. And then what? Trump asked. Then we drive right up to the front door of the most secure facility in Arizona and hope they don't look too closely at the delivery manifest. It sounded insane, but it was the best plan we had. Mike led us to his vehicle lot, where he kept a collection of trucks in various states of repair. He stopped in front of a white delivery truck that looked like it had seen better days. This beauty's been sitting here for 6 months, he said, patting the hood. Owner defaulted on payments, so now she's mine. Perfect for our little mission. Dr. Rodriguez was still working on her computer. I'm downloading the facility's floor plans, she said. The main control room is on the 3rd sublevel, about 200 feet inside the rock. But there are multiple security checkpoints between the entrance and our target. How many guards? I asked. According to the personnel files I can access, about 50 security personnel on duty at any given time, plus automated systems, cameras, and God knows what else. Trump was studying the facility blueprints on her screen. There, he pointed to a section of the map. The ventilation system. If we could access it from the tunnel, we might be able to bypass some of the security. Crawling through air ducts? I shook my head. Mr. President, with all due respect, we're not exactly built for that kind of acrobatics. I am, Dr. Rodriguez said quietly. I helped design that ventilation system. I know every duct, every access panel, every emergency exit. The plan was starting to come together, but I could see the fear in her eyes. She was talking about going into the belly of the beast, alone, while we created a distraction. Elena, Trump said gently, you don't have to do this. We can find another way. No, she replied firmly. This is my fault. I helped create this monster, and now I have to help destroy it. Mike checked his watch. We need to get moving. Tommy's convoy will be at the rendezvous point in 2 hours, and we still need to prep the truck and load our equipment. As we prepared for what might be the most dangerous mission of our lives, I couldn't help but think about how much my world had changed in the last 24 hours. Yesterday, I was just a trucker, hauling soybeans across the desert. Today, I was part of a team trying to save the world from a weather control weapon. But that's the thing about America. When push comes to shove, ordinary people step up and do extraordinary